talk quickly about the Senegal, England. So the British people are saying, it's the end of the year. It's the end of the year. Our players are tired. We don't do well in friendlies anyway. Maybe that might be the case. England also lost to no, they didn't lose. They beat Andorra 1-0. So right now the team,
even the 1-0 was a struggle for them.
But I will say that if it's the World Cup and England plays Senegal, I'm not saying that England will win, but it'll be a much closer game than that. But in general, I think it's hard to say, but I do think that England is kind of declining a little bit. They even were very lucky to make it to the finals of Euro last year. They're not that good. Mm-hmm. Kane is getting older, and they need to solve their problem in midfield and defense because they don't really have a lot of decisive choices. What do you think of Falabi? Yeah,
I quite agree with you. But the excuse that England is giving that is end of the season, players are tired, Senegal can as well give that excuse because they have about 8 of their players that played against England, that play in England. Jackson of Chelsea, Ismaila Sarr plays in the Premier League, Idrissa Gueye in Crystal Palace. A lot of them play in the Premier League.
Mendy, the best goalkeeper. Where does Mendy play? Where does Mendy play?
I think Mendy has gone back to France, I think.
But the key is that these are not small boys from
Europe.
They play.
And if you look at the English team, Harry Kane was there, Ebere Chieze was there, Saka was there, Anthony Gordon was there. They played the best of their players. Even Kyle Walker was there. And if you look at that game, because I watched the whole of the game, Senegal played them off the park. They dominated possession. They put them under a lot of pressure. But for their goalkeepers, it was Pickford that kept, then Henderson took over from him. But for their goalkeepers, Senegal would have...
Democracy present.
Okay, so continue your point,
yes,
Mr. Watt.
So what I was saying, Mustafa, is that this is no fluke. This is not a fluke at all. I watched that game. Senegal was far and away better than England.
And they're more physical than England.
And they're more physical than England. But for their goalkeepers, the 2 goalkeepers, one kept and then the other one. But for the goalkeepers, England would have been embarrassed that day.
Yeah. And the English team, they need to work on their defense. What's this guy's name, man? Kyle Walker. I don't think he has any role to play in that national team. I think age is telling on him. So the coach has a lot of work to do.
There are a lot of
just like Nigeria. What is keeping England national team is just most of their players play for EPL. So I think they have lots of work to do. Then for the Senegalese national
team, they start meeting teams like in the World Cup, like Brazil, teams that have good wingers and stuff, they're going to be in big trouble because their defense is flat.
You know, England, their national team is just like South African and Nigeria. Too much hype. Mostly the English national team. Why they hype them is because of the EPL. The players playing in EPL. Yeah. EPL aside, England cannot do anything. Now for Senegal, I think Nigeria should take a cue from Senegal. If you watch those guys again, the Senegalese players, they are younger players, and if you see them, they have the hunger to play for the national team.
Skillful, they're quick.
Yes. So Nigerian players should be able to replicate that, what the Senegalese guys did in that match.
But in order to do that, we have to play together. Like, look at even this guy Sané, when he played in the last African Nations Cup, he was the leader of the team. Everybody was together. You know, I mean, they got unfortunately they lost to Ivory Coast, but they could have won. So they played together, and even when they're in France, those guys live together. They know each other, and they're like a family. Nigeria is just a bunch of different guys. We're not gelling together at all. You know, we're not gelling at all.
And to show you that the Senegalese FA is a lot more organized than the Nigerian. They are being coached by a Senegalese coach. I think it was
a young guy.
Very young guy. The team is organized. If you see their defense, very organized. They were passing around England with
even the midfield. They took over the midfield.
Yes, they were very comfortable on the ball. And if you look at, I think what the English coach is trying to do is most of these players that played under Gareth Southgate, the previous coach, what he's trying to do is to prove to the English FA that a lot of these guys are not good enough anymore. If he came and starts changing players, they will say, why didn't he stick with the old guard? But now it's obvious to everybody that a lot of youngsters have to come into that team and the old guard have to be phased out. So I think that's what he's trying to prove to them because at least 6 of the players that were in this team played in the Euros last year.
So is Senegal on course to qualify for World Cup? Yeah.
I think so. I need to confirm that though.
This is the African channel, so we don't care about England. We're talking about Senegal. So with this show is almost over, but any last thoughts on Senegal in general and how they played and how they can move forward? Yeah.
To show you how good they were, Sadio Mane, as experienced as he was, he came on as a substitute. It shows you that they have a talent pool that is already, doing well. Unlike some teams that keep sticking to their old players, almost in every department. Defensively, they were solid. Midfield, they were compact. And the three that play up front, especially Sarr and Nicholas Jackson, they have a chemistry between them. In fact, the way Nicholas Jackson plays for them, he doesn't play for Chelsea that way. He seems to be fired up whenever he's playing for Senegal. That's one thing Super Eagles don't have anymore. They don't play for the shirt anymore. And it's a microcosm of what is happening in the country. In those heydays of Clemens Westhoff and Bonfred Joe, every Nigerian crowd was proud to come and don the colors of the national team.
And they played. Those guys played together for 4 years, from 1990 to 1994. Well, no, 94 to they did well 94. It was 94, but they won the African Nations Cup too. So
and then we don't take the under 20 and the under 16 seriously anymore. Back in the days, we'd bring like 2 or 3, precocious talent from the under 20 to join the Super Eagles. And look at this guy that plays for South Africa that has already started playing for Bafana. The guy we did the show on the other time. Where are the under 20 players? Yeah, Mofokeng. Where are the under 20 players that will graduate to the Super Eagles? We don't know any of them.
The reason why we have issue most time with our under 20 is because they don't use I believe they don't use their real age. So by the time you start counting on that 20, and before you know it, age you start telling on them and they fit up.
Kanu should be 70 by now. All right, guys. Okay, nice one. So this was a good one. So we'll come back. I think South Africa, no, not South Africa. I keep saying Sundowns plays in the club championships, the World Cup. That's on Saturday.
He's kicking off on the
15th, Sunday.
Yeah.
Sunday. So we'll come back to talk about their match on Monday probably. Okay, thanks. Take us out, Apollo.
Yeah, another brilliant football show. We've been discussing our own dear Super Eagles as well as England and Senegal. And from Mustafa, Warif and myself, we'll be back sometime next week.
Okay, thanks. Have a good one, guys.
Yeah.